channel. So today I'm doing my October wrap-up, and honestly I had a really great reading month despite all the work I've been doing, and I'm just amazed that I've been able to read all of these books. I have mostly more dark books, which is usually what I read at this time of year, so you definitely see that here, that I have a lot of fantasy and a lot of thriller and horror books, and in the summertime I'm mostly focusing on contemporary and romance. So yeah, I'm excited. All of these books I am excited to talk about, and yeah, let's just get started. The first book I read was Fallen by Lauren Kate. This was honestly such a fun read. This has been sitting on my bookshelves for ages, and if you know this book, like, it's kind of old. I think it's around that time when Twilight was here, like that this was kind of just as popular and everyone was fangirling over this guy, and I think that's the era this comes from, but I haven't read it before, so I wanted to read it because obviously you know that I love Twilight, and I did really enjoy it, but I think I would have loved it more if I read it when I was younger, because I'm 21 now, and even though I really liked it, it was a fun read, it is definitely for a younger audience, and but you know, I would have loved this when I was younger because this is exactly the books that I loved. But I would say this is very similar to Twilight. We follow this girl, Luce, who moves to this new boarding school that are kind of for troubled kids. Not really, but kind of like a last resort for kids that have a difficult time. And there she meets this guy, Daniel, that's very mysterious and handsome and tall and all of that stuff, you know. And she soon discovers that he's not an ordinary human. And it's just one of those typical guy and girl things, and where the guy is supernatural. And you know, it's cringy. It's very not a unique story, but I loved it. Like, it was so fun, but also nothing too special or new, since it's very similar to Twilight, where we have the girl moving to this city. But I did really enjoy the fantasy elements, like the creatures, what they were and stuff. We don't have vampires, which is the main thing in a lot of books. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad I read it. I know this isn't an entire series, and I don't think I'm planning on reading more of this series, but it was a fun read, and I'm glad, you know, I had fun, I laughed, but also not anything too special in my opinion. And kind of on the same note, the next book I read was Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. So if you didn't know, I do a reread of Twilight, the Twilight saga, every year, and now is the time for that one. So I finished the first book in October, and I'm now on the second book. But of course, I hope you all know this story. We have Edward and Bella, and I love this first book because that's when everything happens. Like, that's when everything starts, you know what I mean? Like, this series means so much to me, and it was got me into reading it, like, when I was younger. It has such a special place in my heart, and this is like where it all starts, it all happens, and I love it so much. And also, these dust jackets I got from Etsy. I can link the shop down below if you want to. I love them with all of my heart. Definitely worth the money. I'm not regretting that purchase. I have for all the 4 books. There is one out for Midnight Sun that I'm dying to get my hands on, so I'm probably gonna buy that. But yeah, so I read this one, the first one, and oh, I love it so much. The amount of cozy feelings and the amount of, like, I feel like I'm home when I read these books, you know, I feel like I'm at home. It's something else, you know, and I'm probably always gonna do my reread of this entire series every year around the fall time because I love it. The next book I read was Misery by Stephen King. As you know, I've gotten into Stephen King, and this is my second book of him that I read, I think, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed my first book by him, which was The Institute. But here we follow Paul, and Paul is a very famous writer. In his books, he writes about this woman, Misery, and in his latest novel, he decides to kill off Misery because he feels kind of done with her. You know, he wants to kind of move on from her in his works. But his #1 biggest fan doesn't at all enjoy that he killed Misery off. So she kidnaps him and tortures him and makes him write a new book where Misery comes back to life. So basically this entire book is we follow him being captive by this crazy woman doing horrible things to him. And at first I really didn't understand it. I thought it was pretty boring and just really gruesome in a weird way. But someone said that Stephen King wrote this as a kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but as a kind of battle between himself and his drugs. I don't really know, but if so, that's pretty like a cool concept and a pretty like then you would understand the story better, I think, if you knew the meaning behind it, what Stephen King actually was feeling behind this. But overall, I would say it was a good book, but definitely not my favorite and pretty boring to me, honestly. But I'm still glad I read it. It was a relatively short book, so I got through it pretty quickly. And, you know, I didn't want to DNF it because I've decided that I'm gonna read all of Stephen King's books without DNFing them. We'll see if I can manage that. But yeah, it was a pretty unique book, gruesome and just kind of disturbing, honestly, at times. The next book I read was There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This is the same author that wrote Anna and the French Kiss trilogy, which I adored, so I definitely wanted to pick up her YA thriller. This is the first one. I believe there's another one too. And here we follow Makani. Makani used to live in Hawaii with her parents, but she now has moved to Nebraska to live with her grandmother. And she moves into this whole new town, whole new high school and everything. And all of these murders suddenly start to happen in this usually, honestly, kind of a quiet and calm town. No one really understands what the hell is going on, who is doing all of these stuff, which Makani and her friends are trying to find out, as well as the rest of the town, obviously. And Makani also has a really dark secret, like a hidden past that no one really knows about. She doesn't want to talk about it, what happened in Hawaii. And as the book goes on, you as a reader get to know Makani's secret back in Hawaii, but you don't know that in the beginning. This is actually my first YA thriller. I haven't read that before, and I did think it was pretty good. It was very easy, not really anything crazy happening. It was all kind of expected. It's a relatively quick read as well. It's kind of short. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't anything too special. You have these murders happening in the high school and in someone's home, and you are kind of with these characters who are also, as a reader, trying to find out who's behind it. And that's obviously always fun and interesting, but I didn't think it was anything too special, not any crazy things happening, and I don't know, it was just kind of average. I do still want to read her other thriller book that she's written, which I think is called The Woods Are Always Watching, because I did think it was a fun and easy thriller. So if you're looking for that, I definitely recommend this. The next book that I picked up was Salt to the Sea by Ruth Septis. This was my first World War II historical fiction that I've read, and I really did enjoy it. I can't wait to get my hands on more World War II historical fiction. My dad and my brother has always been interested in World War II, and I remember them talking about it at home over the dining table, and you know, we would talk about it in school, obviously, and I was never really interested. I mean, you can't be interested in everything, but my dad and brother were always so interested about it. They would watch TV shows and documentaries about it, and I really never understood it. And then me and my family went to Poland one spring, I think, and we visited Auschwitz, which is a camp that they used in World War II, and that kind of really sparked my interest. It was really, really interesting to see that and get the guided tour of how everything went down and what happened in that building and what happened in that building. And it was horrible and obviously so freaking terrible, but so interesting and so important to know. Like, it's so important to know your history, and that's why I'm so intrigued to pick up more books like this one. In this one we followed 4 teenagers, or 4 different people from 4 different countries, and they all kind of intersect, their paths kind of intersect because they have one goal in common, and that is to survive like this war. And that's pretty cool because you have these 4 individual people that have nothing in common otherwise, but together they want to survive this thing, obviously. And it's just really difficult to read, of course, but so important and so beautifully written, in my opinion, and I really, really enjoyed it. I have so many more historical fiction on my wish list that I've heard so many great things about that I'm so excited to read. And also, in my opinion, I think this is the perfect time to read these because it's kind of gray outside this time of year and it's kind of cold, and I think it just really fits the vibe. So this one I definitely recommend. The next book I read, or actually finished this month, because I started this one in the springtime and I just never got around to finish it, but I did finish it this month, and that is Lost Connections by Joanne Hari. So this is a non-fiction book, and it talks all about depression and anxiety and how different, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's so interesting. So we follow Joanne has met a lot of people and research a lot of things, and you get to follow him as he meets people and interview people from different cultures, from different countries, from different backgrounds, how they see depression and how they see medication, how they treat depression, what has worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, why we are depressed today, like why is it such a big thing in the world. And it's just really interesting, and obviously a very hefty book because it's so much facts, so much analytics. It's just hefty. I think it's why, because it took such a long time to finish it. It's not something that you read in just like one sitting. It's really like a lot, but I do have a lot of tabs, so you can see that I enjoyed it. So interesting, and how medication and how different methods had worked and didn't work, and it's just so interesting, and how different cultures see depression, because we all see depression in a different way. Like, it's just really interesting. I definitely recommend it if you're interested in the subject, or if you yourself have dealt with depression, because I think it was truly beautiful. And the author himself, has dealt with depression and is handling it, and we all are trying to survive in our own way, right? So I definitely recommend this if you're interested in this type of things, or if you yourself has struggled with it. So such an inspiring book, honestly. I really loved it. The next book I read, which I actually did a reading vlog on, is It by Stephen King. This is such a brick of a book. Oh my gosh. So this book, we follow a group of kids who lives in this town, Derry. It's a small town. Nothing really happens there. But these group of kids can see it, which is a clown, or it appears as a clown. Sometimes it appears as other things, and it kills people. It kills children, it kills people, and no one really knows what's behind it except these kids that can actually see it, because not all people can see this thing. Years passed, these kids are grown up. You follow them as they have moved out of this town. They are living in a different state. They're working, they're living their lives with their spouses, and suddenly they get this calling to go back to Derry to finish this thing off, because it kind of just stopped abruptly and now it started again. And I was really nervous when I started this, because for me, horror books needs to have a story, not only bad things happening and people killing people. It needs to have a story, and this one really does, almost a little bit too much, because it is big. And definitely, in my opinion, Stephen King has a way with words, and kind of words vomit too much, because this book could actually be a lot shorter. You had some details that you didn't need to know, even though I appreciate details and it's good in a way, but this was honestly a little bit too much. You could definitely have made the book shorter, in my opinion, because after I finished this one, I was kind of sick of it. That's how much it is. But it was really, really good. I really enjoyed the book. I'm so glad I read it. It was a great story. I'm so intrigued to watch the movies. I'm definitely gonna do that soon. I'm so excited to see how they did the movies. I hope they get everything that was in here. That may be difficult though, because it's so big. But it's so interesting, because it's so also nice, because you follow these people, this group of people, as they're kids, and then they're grown-ups and their stories, and you also follow a lot of other characters along the way, like their spouses and police, trying to figure out who the murderer is. It's just really, really good. I liked it. You should definitely read it if you have been wanting to, but you are scared. I definitely recommend it. I thought it was really good, and also I wasn't really scared. It was some moments that was spooky, but I wasn't really scared. I think the movie is going to be worse, because for me it's worse when I can actually see it. Here you're more reading about it and you can picture it in your head, sure, but like I think the movie is going to be really scary, because you can see the creepy clown. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really, really glad I finally read it. The next book I read was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. This is obviously a beloved story all over the world. I grew up loving watching the movie, the newer one with Johnny Depp. I can't tell you how many times I watched that one, so I definitely knew I wanted to pick up the book. It's been sitting on my shelf for a while, and I finally decided to pick it up. I was actually surprised of how similar this was to the movie. Like, everything was true to the story. The movie and the book, so similar. You didn't have anything changing, honestly. It's a very short book, which I was surprised over, because the movie I feel like is so long and detailed, but they got everything in this. Like, and this even have pictures and it has drawings, and they still got the entire story, which amazed me. So obviously we follow Charlie Bucket, who lives with his parents and his 4 grandparents, and they're very poor. They're just trying to get by the best they can, and his father just lost his job. You know, they're kind of living a difficult life. They don't have enough money for food, and you know, they're struggling. And in this town you have a big chocolate factory that's very famous, and everyone knows about Willy Wonka. And I love how mysterious and mystical it is, because no one really sees people entering the factory and no one ever sees people leaving. So people are wondering, like, who actually works there? How are they making all this chocolate when there's no people entering or leaving? And no one has ever like seen Willy Wonka, which is very suspicious. Then one day, Willy Wonka comes out with the news that 5 golden tickets are hidden in 5 chocolate bars, could be anywhere in the world. And these 5 golden tickets, the people that find them gets invited to the factory and gets a tour, and the winner gets a grand prize. And you get to follow as 5 kids find the golden ticket, and Charlie being the last one. And you get to follow as they go on this big tour in the factory, and things happening to the children, and in the end you have one standing winner. And I don't want to spoil it, but you know. But yeah, it's so whimsical and cute, and I just love it so much. This edition is also very pretty because you have really cool like illustrations. I don't know if you can see, but the drawings are very whimsical, just like a kid drew them, which really fits the story. So good, so freaking good. I'm so glad I read it. Next up, we have another childhood favorite, and that is Spiderwick by Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black. So this is also a movie where I grew up watching, so I wanted to get the book. This is actually the complete collection. There are 5 books in total, I believe, and this is the complete collection, which is beautiful and has actually a lot of extra materials. So in here we follow a family of 2 younger brothers and 1 older sister and their mom as they move into this old house that actually belonged to their like great aunt Lucinda, I think, and Lucinda is now living in the hospital or like a nursing home. And the 2 younger brothers almost right away discovers that this house has a lot of secrets and a lot of hidden things. And I just think it's so magical and so beautiful. And as a kid, I actually was pretty scared by the movie, so definitely scary for kids, I would say, but so freaking wonderful and magical. And you have all of these creatures. You have bad creatures, but you also have really good, cute creatures, and also really big mystery around it, because you have Lucinda, and Lucinda's father went missing when Lucinda was just a kid, and they soon discover what actually happened to him, and they're trying to find out, and you do get to find out what happened to him. And it's just truly beautiful and magical, but a little bit scary. And you have all these wonderful creatures as well as bad creatures, and kind of these kids fighting to figure out the secret and to save lives. So I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a middle grade spooky story about this haunted house or secret house, mystery house with creatures and hidden things. Just, it's truly magical. The last book that I read this month is actually a graphic novel, and that is Pumpkin Heads by Rainbow Rowell. So obviously this is a book that I wanted to read this fall. I read it last fall for the first time, I think, and of course I had to reread it. The art style is beautiful. And here we follow 1 boy and 1 girl that has been working together at this pumpkin patch every fall together through high school. But their last year of high school is coming up, so it's going to be their last fall together working at this pumpkin patch before they're going off to college and going separate ways. So you follow them in the course of one day during their last shift together, and they are kind of trying to make the best out of it. They want to have the best day ever together for the last time at this pumpkin patch. And it's kind of sad when you think about it, but it's also very beautiful and cute and very, very wholesome about friendship. I would say it's about true friendship and what's actually important in this world. So definitely perfect for this time of year because it does involve a pumpkin patch. So, and this is probably going to be one of those that I will reread every fall because it's just truly, truly amazing. That was it for my wrap up. I thought it was a pretty good reading month, to be honest, and I'm so happy about that. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought, and or if you got excited to read any of these. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in one of my next videos. Bye!